Welcome back, Radio Entrepreneurs listeners and fans. I'm producer Nathan Gobes. Excited to reintroduce you to one of our regular reporters, Marc Z of Marc Z Legal Staffing. He's here with another employment update for his Marc Z moment. Welcome, Marc.
Thanks, Nathan. Great to be here and talk about some relevant subjects.
I know you do always have a relevant topic, and this one I know relates to an issue that many employers are dealing with. Why don't you tell us what you wanted to talk about?
Thank you, Nathan. So as you and I were talking about, one of the things in this economy, everybody's saying the great resignation. A lot of employers in many areas, not only in specialty areas and industries and everywhere around the country, are having problems with hiring good, talented people. And they're doing everything they can to hire talented people, increasing salaries, signing bonuses. Some employers are letting new employees have specially designed vacations, letting them work remotely, partially remotely, really design their own jobs sometimes. But what a lot of employers are not looking at, which some employers are, and I think that a magnifying glass is coming in more of retaining employees. One of the feedback, and I said one of the things coming from the hiring the last few years of COVID is once the hiring is completed and the person is onboarded, a lot of employers just expect the person to be integrated to their systems, the way of doing things, their culture. And the problem is especially with a lot of these employers having remote employees or letting their employees work full-time remote or part-time remote, and having training coming in. Training is not always best when you do it from remote. And also the mentorship or the whole follow-up or the whole process of communication is very, very difficult. And so what we want to talk about is just remind employers, when you've made a considerable investment in hiring a new employee, what you want to do is retain that employee. Now, there's two types of retention. One is with your new hires. Obviously, once you've hired them, you want to make sure they have the training. They feel part of the process, part of the culture, really can start a good working relationship with their colleagues. And you have to put a whole process in place, and you have to put a training in place for the people that did the training in the office. It's not the same anymore. The people that might have been the buddies to or the mentors to some of the new people coming in, they may not be accessible anymore like they were. They may not be down the hall anymore. And just in terms of getting back to them, and when you're new, even if you're the best employee that figures things out on their own, they still have questions in order to do the job. And a lot of times it's difficult to reach the key people because they're not trained yet. They don't know what happens. So what happens is you have people leaving jobs because the people that they're reporting to are not getting back to them. They're not getting the training. They're not learning the job. And in some cases, on the employer side, the employers feel that they should have been doing a better job, and so the employers are letting people go, or the employers are not doing the type of hires. So there's a balance. Once you've vetted somebody, once you've referenced somebody, once they've gone through the whole process and they've come on, you've made an investment to bring that person there, and you want to do everything in your power to retain them. And so, again, our suggestion is one, try to have a design training program when the person comes in so they're oriented properly. Try to have people now, it's been 2 years, that understand the new model. Maybe the person can come in for a day or two, and then everything else is done remotely. But have a program where everybody is invested in. And also you want, particularly early in that stage, not just throw somebody into the deep end, but you want to help guide them. Have a lifeguard there that's going to help make sure that every step they take or every swim stroke they embark on, they're hitting the right marks where they're happy and you're happy.
Yeah. I think that's a great analogy, Mark. Like you said, these employers can't just assume that once the new hire signs the paperwork and, gets their password, that they're all set and to rock and roll. It's a totally different world out there than it was several years ago, where, like you said, everyone, new hires had, people down the hall they could ask. They had other coworkers in the lunchroom, whatever, people that they could on hand that they could reach out to. Now it's much more difficult, and I think a lot of employees find that they don't feel as comfortable reaching out, especially when they're new. They don't know when it's acceptable to reach out and ask for questions. Is this a good question to ask? Things like that. So it is so helpful, or so crucial to have a system and some training in place. And like you said, probably training that may need to be updated if it hasn't been since the pandemic. A lot of companies have adopted new digital systems, new ways of managing things in this remote environment, and these new hires need to be trained in that manner, not necessarily just in the old ways that we were doing things two and a half years ago.
Correct. And Nathan, the other thing is that I also want to let our listeners know, don't forget your existing staff, because you bring on people, you've financially compensated a lot of these people, maybe traditionally a lot more. You want your existing team to be helpful, to feel good about everybody coming in and being helpful to the new people, but feeling good about themselves and your company. It's like, I don't know about you, I can't remember, but it's like when you had siblings, and we always see it with friends of ours, and you have one child, and then the baby comes in, and a lot of times people ignore the child that they've had, and they don't have, not that they ignore them, but they're so focused on the baby, right, they don't give them the attention. And that's the same thing with the existing employee. You have been very pleased with this person who's been with your company. You've tried to be fair with them, compensation-wise, responsibility, growth track-wise, but all of a sudden you're focused on the hiring because you really have these needs, but you really want to make sure that they're happy. Whether it's if you're going to give more money to somebody coming in now to do the role and handle the responsibility, what a lot of firms are doing is unilaterally they're saying, you know what? This is what salaries are right now. We want our team to be happy. And so anybody coming in, we're going to put on this new compensation. But the people that were on the old one, we want to make sure that they're fairly balanced. We want to make sure that they have the new bonus incentive package that we're giving people coming in, so they feel good that it's a win-win-win situation.
That makes total sense, Mark. You spend all this time and money filling these holes that may have filled in many employers' teams, but if you don't take care of the current employees that are still there, you're going to end up with more holes that have to be filled. And I think back to what we were talking about with training, even though we are 2 years into it, it is entirely possible that some of these, if you're ramping up a new training program for new hires, you may want to think about the old employees too, and either mandatory or not, but have them get freshened up on all these systems. Maybe people are doing what they can to get along, but they could use some help, some communication from the team.
Correct. So that's my thought process that I thought it really important to our listeners, Nathan, is just remember, once you've done the hire and completed the hire and you have people coming on, the process doesn't end there. And then once you have people coming on board and you want them to be successful, you want to maintain your team and make sure they're happy. So that way everybody's happy and you have a successful team.
Well, great. Well, we're always happy when you're here with us, Mark. And we love having you join us every week. For any of our listeners or viewers that want to get in touch with you, maybe they have staffing needs that they need to fill, or they just have questions, what's the best way to find you?
Sure, Nathan. Well, first of all, just Google Mark Z, MARC, and the letter Z, and we'll come right up. Or Mark Z Legal, MARCZLEGAL.com, or 617-338-1300.
Great. And of course, you can find Mark Z on the Radio Entrepreneur's website. He's always got some relevant discussion topics that we're presenting there. And we're all over social media and many other platforms as well: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, we're probably there. So be sure to follow us on all those. We'll be back with Radio Entrepreneurs after this break.